Hello, you, and welcome to the LPC, the Language Practice Center. And this is the LPC Podcast. Here we talk about languages, cultures, and immigration. So I invite you to join us into this conversation and practice. Hello, Bassel. Let's practice, Bassel.
Hello, Kenny. Let's go. How are you doing over there?
Okay, over there, I'm okay. I'm doing just fine, let's say. I was teaching earlier, so I was with a student. So that's why my energy is up right now. What about you?
Sounds great. It's all good. Just worked a lot today. I had a couple of really heavy tasks at work, like finally wrote a new blog post. I translate some stuff. I will get them done tomorrow. Of course, there are a couple of final touches on the translation. And I've got some Amazon listing stuff to do for the company, and afterwards I chilled out a little bit after work. I studied a little bit for my digital marketing course, and right now I'm with you at the LPC podcast.
Good. So you had quite a busy day, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm talking to you. This is Bassel, but who is Bassel? So please, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Bassel. I was originally born in Syria. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in marketing. Afterwards, I moved to Brazil due to the difficulties and the bad situations that had occurred at my country. And afterwards, I arrived in 2018 to this beautiful country. I started working a little bit like with English teaching at the first couple of months, but afterwards, after the contract got expired, I started, working myself out to secure any job whatsoever. And afterwards, I had to work just like anybody else at the supermarket in order to pay my bills. I worked there for like 1 year and 9 months. Afterwards, finally, I secured my first job in marketing. Of course, during that 1 year, 9 months, I started doing some courses in my major just in order to improve my knowledge within digital marketing. And after my first job, I moved for the first time to another state in Brazil. I moved to a city called Florianopolis in Santa Catarina.
Oh, wait. Okay, but wait. We'll talk about this in a few minutes. But before you go there, before you're talking the difference between Florianopolis and São Paulo, which by the way, it's one of your episodes on your podcast, because yes, Bassel has his own podcast, which is, what's the name?
It's called Living with Bassel. It's available on every podcast platform you use, whether it's Spotify or Google Podcast or even Deezer as well.
Okay. So before we go there, before we talk about that difference of living south of Brazil and here in São Paulo, let's go back a little. As you guys can see, Bassel just talks one thing to the other and he keeps going. So this is a place to practice. So let's go back a little bit, Bassel. You were saying that you got your bachelor degree in marketing in Syria, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. You arrived in Brazil applying for asylum, which is the refugee protocol in Brazil. So you got here applying for refugee status in what year?
March 2018.
Okay, March 2018. Then you were recognized as such in?
I was recognized, and I would say like 100% 2019. I was given my permanent residency in 2019.
So in 2019, you were recognized as refugee in Brazil. Okay. I don't know if you guys know this, but in Brazil, we have a very current and very useful law about immigration. The immigration law that we have in Brazil is very up to date. It's one of the best out there. And you can attest this by talking to the refugees. You can attest this by talking to them, because they know that the process that we have in Brazil, it's all about legality. So we have all the right documents to provide them. First, when you got here.
Yeah, absolutely.
First, when you.
Not only that.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only that, but it's much a clearer process than most nations, because most nations, even when you go like as a refugee, you don't know when we're going to secure documents. You don't know what to do. Like nobody gives you any useful information. Like for example, in Turkey, I've got a friend of mine who lives there, totally legal as a student there, but he doesn't know if he will ever get the citizenship because the process is all random. So yeah, literally. So or for example, in countries like Denmark, for example, it's going to take you 10 years to get the citizenship, which is like
in Brazil, the current
absolutely
law,
insane.
the current immigration law that we have here is so up to date that even when it comes to the paperwork, we have all set. We have a set of paperwork that the refugees they have to have. So when they get here into Brazil, when they first get to Brazil, they need to apply for refugee status. And that can be through the federal police, the Brazilian federal police, PF, a Polícia Federal. That can be also through the internet, because in the past, it used to be only with the federal police. But then around beginning of 2020, something like this, they start changing. So now the refugee themselves, they can just apply online. If they don't know how to, that's where we volunteers of the volunteer work that I do with refugees and immigrants. By the way, that's how Bassel and I met each other. We're going to talk about this in a while. That's when we come in. We, the volunteers, we come in by helping them, not only with languages, so not only by teaching them Portuguese, but we also help them with the documents. And one of the documents is this one, is the protocol. Protocolo de pedido de refúgio, protocolo de solicitação de refúgio. So we help them get this protocol on the internet. Then they have to renew this protocol. They have to keep renewing the protocol because they need to wait for this specific governmental place to invite them for an interview. The name is CONARE. CONARE is the place. CONARE is the institution of the federal government that gets in touch with them by email message. They never get in touch by phone. So they get in touch with them by email message. They schedule an interview with them. And then on this day of the interview, and there we go, let's talk about languages and translation. On that day of the interview with CONARE, if the refugee doesn't speak really good Portuguese, they are allowed to have an official translator, an official interpreter, such as me, which is my job as well. So they are allowed to have an official translator right next to them in order to help with the languages. Because this interview is super important. It's because of this interview that the government can or cannot provide them with the official immigrant document, which is RNM, o famoso RNM, Registro Nacional do Imigrante. Antes era conhecido como RNE, Registro Nacional do Estrangeiro. Eles decidiram mudar de estrangeiro para migrante. Então, tanto faz. Estrangeiros que possuem RNE é a mesma coisa que os estrangeiros que possuem RNM. É uma questão técnica. It's technicality. Estrangeiro and migrante. So, after this foreigner gets the RNM or RNM, then officially this person is in Brazil as a refugee. And that's what I'm talking to Bassel about. Bassel got his RNM in 2019. After one year and a half, after a year and a half,
more or less.
of having the protocol.
Yeah.
So how many times did you have to renew the protocol?
I believe I renewed it twice. I would say so, once or twice. I can't remember it exactly.
Okay, so you renew once or twice, and then after that, you were invited for an interview, and
Yeah.
you got the RNM. Okay, and now tell us, please, Bassel, what happened to your bachelor diploma degree in marketing?
Yeah, that's a pretty great question, I would say. Late in 2019, I went to an organization called Compasiva, which is one of the organizations here in Sao Paulo that's specialized in helping refugees in the revalidation process in order to be able to continue studying at Brazilian universities. So I applied for it in late 2019, and the pandemic happened, that everything got shut down. And like after maybe 1 year and a half later, they got in touch with me, tell me my bachelor's degree was officially accepted and revalidated at the University Federal Fluminense in Rio de Janeiro. So right now I'm capable of studying at any Brazilian university of my choice without any further bureaucracy or any further steps to do.
How can I say congratulations in Arabic?
Mabruk.
Oh yeah, that's true. I've heard this before. Uh-huh. Mabruk, 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 mabruk,
Thank you.
Congratulations, because hey, that's true. That's true. It's so difficult to get a diploma revalidation. It's so difficult. So when it happens, you really need to celebrate because it's very difficult. I'm going to invite other friends of mine that are immigrants. And I have this other friend that is also from Syria, and he's a veterinarian, and he's still going through the process. And he's going through the process using the same Brazilian Federal University, a UFF, a Universidade Federal Fluminense, no Rio de Janeiro. So they're both using the same university. But Bassel has been in Brazil longer than my other Syrian friend. Bassel has been in Brazil 4 years, 3 years.
Almost 4 years. Yeah.
My other friend from Syria, he has been in Brazil for 2 years, 2 years and a half. And he's a veterinarian, which means it's medical. So it's even harder. It's harder to get the bachelor diploma revalidation.
That's the worst thing about having a foreign medical degree in any country, not just in Brazil. Like go to Germany, US, etc. There's so many steps you need to take in order to validate in any country. It's way more complicated than having, like more like a media-oriented degree or like something like this, because as the medical field requires some certain level of knowledge in certain, maybe like certain treatments or certain procedures that you need to take, and every country has its own way of doing things. So medical degrees are most painful.
And the medical revalidation also means that you have to take some other subjects. So in his case, he has to take around 5 or 6 subjects in order to try the revalidation again.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's always complicated. Okay, but when it happens, mabruk, because it's so difficult to get the diploma revalidated. Okay, so just before we go, I'd like you to tell us about Portuguese compared to Arabic, Portuguese compared to English. How is this for you? Because you come from a country that speaks Arabic, but you, just like me, you have ESL, English as a second language. Your English is very good. So English for you is not just as a foreign language. English for you is a second language, like it is for me.
Yeah.
And then you arrive in Brazil 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, speaking nothing of Portuguese. And you have to deal with this. You have to deal with a language that has roots in Latin, in vulgar Latin, like Spanish, Italian, French, and you didn't speak Spanish, you didn't speak French, you didn't speak Italian. So how come you arrived to a country and start speaking Portuguese? How is that for you?
Actually, that's a pretty interesting question. That was complete shock, but I had learned like a couple of words before arriving here using, mobile apps like Duolingo. It helped me a little bit to build up my vocabulary. And at the beginning it was quite difficult, especially from a speaking standpoint, because for me, like reading and writing were already quite established. They weren't that difficult to write or read anything in Portuguese. But I would say like the first year and a half in speaking, it was like a nightmare, to be honest with you. And like starting 2020 and moving forward, started to practice it even a little bit, started to have a bit more courage to talk more to people. Like even like my friends that I had known them for more than 2 years, I have noticed like the noticeable progress I've made in Portuguese.
Say again the last part, please.
Yeah, and even like the friends I had met like 2 years ago, like they have noticed the progress I've made across the years, like into speaking Portuguese.
Which was when you said?
Like 2019, when I used to live like in the southern region of Sao Paulo.
What was the region? The neighborhood.
Brooklyn.
Oh, Brooklyn. Yes, you talk about Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when you got there, I mean not there, when you got here. So when you got in, you being exposed to that, you were exposed to a language that it does not come from the same root as English. English has a Germanic root. The intonation of speaking English is different than intonation of speaking Portuguese. Portuguese, it's a language that we speak by syllables. So all the pronunciations that we have in Portuguese, they come out as syllables. Blah, 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 blah. In English, no. In English, you don't pronounce in a syllabic way. In English, you pronounce in a stressed way. So you give intonations on the words. That's how you speak. What about in Arabic? How do you guys speak when it comes to intonation? I mean,
to be honest with you, I believe like it's kind of close to Latin in some way, because as you know, Arabic language has some impact, or had some impact in the past, like in the Latin language. So maybe it's kind of similar in a way, but I still don't know how to explain it, probably because again, I'm not a linguistic expert, especially not an Arabic linguistic, so I cannot give like a really in-depth view about this topic, to be quite sensitive.
By the way, you said in-depth, so I would like to invite you, Bassel, for another episode of this podcast. And on the other episode, I'd like to talk to you more about this. Can we do this?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a pleasure.
Because this one is more in a general way. It's more a general one. Okay. So I thank you, Bassel, for being here, for sharing your time with us here, because that helps a lot. That helps bringing awareness. And awareness is so important in so many things in life. As you get older, you start developing your awareness skill, and you start being much more aware of your own behavior, of the consequence of your behavior. You become much more aware of so many things in life, and languages is one of them. So you start becoming more aware of the importance of being exposed to different cultures and languages. It's not just about learning. It's about being exposed. So when you want to learn a foreign language, you go through the learning process. But when you want to have contact with foreign languages, you just need to go through an exposure process, which is this volunteer work that I do. I have been doing since January 2017. And since then, it has been 4.5 years now. So since then, my level of awareness about cultures, about Middle East culture, I never ever imagined that I would have friends from the Middle East. So my awareness now from this kind of culture, my awareness now about African culture, my awareness now even about the South American, Central America culture is so much higher now than it was 4.5 years ago. So one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast is to bring that kind of awareness, the awareness that you don't need to actually learn languages and be like, oh, it's so difficult to learn foreign languages. I'm too old for this. It's not about this. It's to bring awareness that regardless the age, regardless your nationality, is always a good thing to be exposed to different cultures and different languages, because this way you can practice more empathy. You can understand better the other side.
Exactly.
Bassel and I became friends in the middle of the pandemic, online. And it took us months to see each other in person for the first time, wasn't it?
Yeah, just almost. And we didn't hang out at the usual place. We hang out at Burger King.
Burger King. But hey, we are doing a promotion, a free promotion for Burger King.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should. I don't know if I'm gonna cut this on the but okay. Yes, it's a place that we love going. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But the first time that I met you in person was there.
Yeah.
Mhm. And by the way, was not alone, because remember that I have another friend from Syria, which is not the veterinarian.
Yeah.
So I have those 3 friends from Syria. The other friend also is going to be one of the guests here on the LPC podcast. And also I met him in the middle of the pandemic online. By the way, when I say that I met them online, is because the volunteer work that I do, it's at this institution, is this NGO, é uma ONG, instituto, the NGO called ADUS. I'm gonna leave the description here below. So I do this volunteer work at ADUS, which is São Paulo downtown. And 2017, 2018, 2019, just going to the places, downtown São Paulo. So me taking the subway, going there every Friday, because that's the volunteer day. For me, the volunteer day for me, every Friday. So I go there. But then 2020, pandemic, the place was closed. So the institution was closed. So we were doing this service, the atendimento service. We were doing this customer service. We were doing online using WhatsApp. That's how I met them. So I got Bassel's WhatsApp because I knew he was a guy from Syria needing help with something. So I said hello. Hi, my name is Karim from ADUS. How can I help you today? And we start talking. And we became friends. The other guy from Syria was the same thing. During the pandemic, I sent a WhatsApp message saying, hey, I'm Karim from ADUS. How can I help you today? He also answered me. And a good energy too. We became friends. So with both of them, it took me months to schedule something. And then when we schedule, I schedule with both of them together. So it was Bassel and my other friend. And we saw each other for the first time. The 3 of us saw each other for the first time. I saw them for the first time, and they saw each other for the first time.
What an amazing coincidence, I would say.
That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of awareness that I'm saying. Look, a Brazilian person, a Brazilian woman meeting two Arab Syrian guys at the same time for the first time, being exposed to English, Arabic, Portuguese. That's amazing. The level of awareness that brings, it's so important. And hey, I'm Brazilian, and I'm saying that I'm doing this inside Brazil. So that exposure that I'm having, it's inside my own country. I'm not even traveling. So that's what I want to bring here. I want to bring the awareness of how important it is to be exposed to different cultures and different languages, even in your own country. And many people, they don't even realize this. They don't even realize that in their own country, and here I'm talking about Brazil, they don't realize that even inside Brazil, Brazilians can be exposed to foreign languages and foreign cultures and understand better the other part.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in Sao Paulo itself, there are different neighborhoods for different cultures. You have like Japanese neighborhood, Italian neighborhood, Arabic neighborhood. So even like if you don't want to go out and meet people, automatically you will be able to be exposed to different cultures within your city.
Yes, I agree, absolutely. Bassel, do you want to leave a message in Arabic to your family, to your friends? Because then you gotta help me out with the translation, huh? And then I translate what you said. Go ahead.
So yeah, I just want to say like I want to thank everybody, you know, for
In
being
Arabic.
support.
In Arabic.
حابب أشكر كل أصدقائي بكل العالم ومساعدتهم لي بكل المواقف الصعبة، وحابب أشكر عائلتي إنه ساعدوني أطلع من الموقف الصعب كنا عايشينه بسوريا، وبتمنى أشوف إخواتي بأقرب وقت بعد ما صار لي غياب 10 سنين ونص تقريبا، راح وصل ل 11 سنة. فهيك وشكرا كثير.
شكرا. So that was the LPC podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening and watching us, and see you next time. Thank you, Bassel.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.